if you would stand with me, we're going to read the 23rd Psalm. I have to put on my glasses, so I cannot see any of you right now, but I can see this. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, so, question. Who likes football? Several of you. Now notice I did not say who is a fan of football. So I'm guessing everyone who raised their hand is a fan of football. And some of you might like it. So for instance, there's me. I'm that kind of attentive fan. I don't really know much about football unless I have a dog in the fight. Like high school football, when my boys were younger, I'm there. I have no idea. I couldn't even name probably more than 4 NFL teams. But when Super Bowl rolls around, I'm here for it because there's nachos and wings at Super Bowl parties. And so I might kind of watch the game. That last little bit beforehand, I'm going to maybe know who's playing. But I'm definitely not what you would call invested, except for when Super Bowl season rolls around, Willa makes a really good pulled pork nachos. So I totally recommend those. But then you have, so my son Renee, he likes football. He kind of follows football. He has a favorite team. He loves some wings and nachos, but he's probably going to fall asleep about halftime. And he might wake up for that fourth quarter and rally around and see who wins. If not, he'll check it on Google later. And so then you kind of have that mild fan. They're a little more invested. They have a favorite team. They know the key components of what's going on. They know the key players. They know some stats and things. So even a little more invested. Then there's my son-in-law. And he had no idea that I was going to be talking about this morning. And yesterday, I got we have a group chat with our family. The first was a meme basically saying, I need my wife to make me a sandwich and know that it's football season and I don't need her to talk on Sunday afternoon. And so, and he loves her, so we're really okay with that. But then the second was, I have a grandson who is just like 3 months old, and he got his first Chiefs jersey yesterday. So anyway, so the thing is that every one of us, like Super Bowl, we're all watching the same game. We're all seeing the same thing, same plays, same camera angles, all the things, but we're viewing it differently. We're processing it differently, and we're seeing it differently. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Let's see. What's interesting about all that is that whenever you think about the fact that that's all the same game, and so Andy's going to see it much differently than I see it, right? I know Jake's going to see it much. I saw you get excited when I said football fan. Going to see it much differently. So we all have these different perspectives, and our lives are that way. And so we actually tend to see God that same way. We're all talking about the same God, the same character of God, the same image of God, all of the same things, but we see it differently based on our perspective. So I want you to think about this. God's grace never grows. It's at the same level that it has been for our entire lives. We become more keenly aware of the work of God in our lives as he leads us through restoration, and we see how much his goodness and mercy are present in our lives. I'm going to say this one more time. God's grace never grows. I had never really thought about that until this series. God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He has not changed. It's our perspective that changes as we become more aware. So, as David finished up this chapter in Psalms, I can visualize him reflecting his own life. Anything you know about David, you know he had some high highs and he had some low lows. So as he is writing this psalm, he's meaning it. This has been an understanding that he has went through life, and he has dealt with some things that rod and that staff, they needed to comfort him. He needed that rest. All of those things that we learn about through there. So I can only imagine that as he's writing this, like he is passionately thinking about the fact that God is God, and this is the character of God, and it has led him to where he is when he's writing this. So God cares for us, and we see that throughout the passage summed up in the words, his goodness and mercy follow me. It means that he is helping us to truly understand the gift of restoration and what it causes us to be aware of in our own lives. Then we talk about the dwelling place. Dwelling is an invitation, and it says, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The house of the Lord is an illustration of his presence. God's presence is where we ultimately experience restoration. The closer to God, the deeper the restoration. As I intentionally dwell in his presence, both here and in eternity, I find that there's a heightened awareness of his goodness and mercy in my own life. And I see how that's followed me, and it goes before me. So, before I dig a little deeper, some of you know exactly how many kids I have, and some of you do not. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my family, which I love to talk about. So first, yesterday was my anniversary. I'm married 28 years yesterday. So this is my husband, Ryan. And we have been married 28 years. And there are a lot of things I love about Ryan, a lot of things. But one of the things over the years that I've come to appreciate is he's helped me recognize my non-negotiables. And in saying that, it's a word I use with my kids all the time, like it's a non-negotiable, meaning we're not going to discuss it like it is. And so Ryan's been great about that. And I had no clue 28, 30 years ago what we were doing, but now realize looking back, he was building something. When we first got married, just the two of us, we always ate at the table. That's always been a thing. We always sat together. We always ate at the table. We always went to church. Whether you're in a good mood or not in a good mood, didn't matter. You were going to church. And so those acts of obedience helped build a foundation for our home. So then we decided we're going to start a family. Now, to be honest with you, I'm a planner to a point. I have 6 kids. So 6 kids will change that about you a little bit. But we have 6 children. Aren't they gorgeous? Anyway, Renee just got married this last year in November to Victoria. So our oldest, Daniel, he's in the gray suit. Daniel is 30. And so anybody doing math right now? Yeah? So Daniel is adopted. Daniel is adopted. We got him when I met him, I was his case manager. We met him when he was 8. And he came for a ride on the tractor, and then he just kept coming back. And eventually, through circumstances that were not pretty, he ended up becoming our son. So there's Daniel that's 30. Then the next oldest is Renee, who is in that nice blue suit there. Renee, he's 21, and we adopted Renee. And we got him when he was 14. A little backstory there, when Michaela was in 5th grade, she's our oldest daughter in the red. When she was in 5th grade, I was out of town, and she was staying with my mother-in-law, and she called me. She's like, I need you to call Mrs. Cox and talk to her about this kid in my class. He is driving me nuts. And I was like, oh, okay. So I emailed her, because I was out of town or whatever, and emailed teacher, like, this kid is driving Michaela nuts. Fast forward to whenever we meet 14-year-old Renee, he is 5th grade Renee who was driving her nuts. So then we have Michaela, Chloe, Lily, and Zoe, who all came along pretty quickly once we decided to have babies there. So I tell you all that to tell you this. There are things that we're going to have to do to continually dwell in God's presence. It doesn't sometimes feel natural for some of us. So my first point to talk to you today is about accepting the dwelling place. We're going to accept the dwelling place. And I tell you about my kids so I can tell you this. When my boys walked into my home, they came in with a little bit of baggage. They came in with a lot of hurt. They came in with a lot of apprehensions. My girls never knew any different. So the dwelling place to them seemed natural their entire lives. It seemed that's the way it was supposed to be. But when the boys came in, it was different for them. They had to learn to trust. They had to learn to feel safe. They had to learn to relax. They had to learn to call us mom and dad. So those are things that were different for them when they walked into our house. When those boys walked in, they weren't sure if just going to a cabinet when opening it was going to be okay. When we first got Daniel, he would drive me nuts. Saturday morning, I wanted to sleep in. He would come in and go, "May I have cereal?" I was like, "Why are you asking me that?" "Yes, you can have cereal." But for him, it wasn't just a given because it's something he had to learn. And so I want to encourage you today that no matter if it's naturally been what you've always known, which then we can tend to sometimes forget the blessing of it, or if it's something that you've had to learn. You've had to learn how to be loved. You've had to learn how to be taken care of. You've had to learn how to accept what's there for you. So whenever you accept, then, oh, that's not going to move. We need to continually return. So Ryan, my husband, is almost 50. His parents live in the same town that we live in. And when Ryan walks in the back door of their house, he walks in, he walks straight to the snack cabinet. He gets that big nut thing that you can get from Sam's with all the mixed nuts. He gets that big thing out, and he unscrews the lid, and he gets a handful of nuts, puts it back. He's done that his entire life. But the nice thing is that his mom knows that he's coming for a snack, and now that my kids are coming for a snack, so she keeps that stocked. It's not like she's eating Fruity Pebbles. You know, she keeps that stocked. It's a dwelling place that was and is something that keeps coming, they come back to, that continual come back to. And I think about how we think about our relationship with Christ with that. I think about my son-in-law, and I was there the day that he recognized Jesus Christ in a phenomenal way. I remember that day so vividly. It was a physical change in that moment. Carlos has never been the same. Never been the same. Once the Holy Spirit was there, wow, it just changed everything. It was an experience at camp, or at a youth conference when he was in high school. So we are at the youth conference, we come home, things, everything's back to normal. And a few months go by, and he comes in and on a Wednesday night, and he sits down, and he is in tears. He said, "I don't understand. I do not understand why people don't care." And I said, "Explain." "I don't understand why people don't understand that the Jesus Christ that I met at camp that day, or at CIY that day, he wasn't just there. He's here, and he's now, and he's present, and people don't care, and it frustrates me." And when I think about that, I think about that dwelling place, that constant coming back, that coming home to feeling. It was something that he never wanted to lose, and he could not understand while the people around him didn't have that same concept. And I think when we think about that, coming back to something that moved us, coming back to what motivates us, coming back to recognizing the safety and the understanding and the love and the forgiveness that comes from God. It doesn't make us perfect. It doesn't make us any better than anyone else. What it does is it makes us forgiven. It makes us taken care of. It makes us safe. Those are the things that I think we forget about whenever we're talking about the character of God. As we've gone throughout this entire series, these past few weeks, we've seen a reflection of God's character in a way that directs us, in a way that takes care of us, in a way that models for us rest, all those things. And whenever I think about that, it just kept bringing me back to home. God feels like home. Our dwelling place feels like home. Our dwelling place is a refuge. A refuge is to keep us safe. A refuge is to keep us restored. It is to keep us on track. We need to rest in the goodness and the mercy of our Father's love. When I was in my 20s and I was pregnant with Michaela, our oldest daughter, my mom was going through her second round of treatment for ovarian cancer. And this had been a battle going on for years. When it initially started, they lived in Wyoming, and she was receiving treatment in Salt Lake City. And we had gone for, I want to say, 2 years, cancer-free. And we were really excited about that until one day. My dad called, and he said, Mom is not feeling well, and we've decided that we're going to transfer her from the University of Utah Cancer Center to Garden City, Kansas. And so I don't know what that makes you think, but that made me think, my mom is aware that her time is short and that she wanted to be close to me so that we could have relationship, but also so she could rest. And in them coming, there was a lot of times that I didn't rest because I was helping take care of my mom and helping my dad do things. And there was one particular weekend where we had gone to Amarillo for treatment. It had been exhausting. We came back and I was just done. And my mom said, why don't you just go downstairs and rest? And I only lived about 15, 20 minutes away from them, but it seemed logical. Just go downstairs and rest. And I went downstairs and I rested. And that is like, it was core memory rest. Rest like which I've never experienced before. And I don't know that I have since, but there's something about going to those places where you feel safe. There's something about being able to rest in a way that is comforting, that lets you just fully fall into it. And that's the invitation that Christ has for us. We accept the fact that he has a dwelling place for us. We are able to dwell there. We're able to go there. We're able to come back to there, constantly having those conversations of what it means to grow our relationship. I'm not going to have a better relationship with my husband or my children or any of you that are my friends if I'm not investing time in you. And it's the same thing with our relationship with God. We have to continually come back. We can't just have that one-time conversation and then step aside and wonder, God, are you going to move? It's a constant, continuing conversation that allows us to rest even when things are not peaceful around us, allows us to rest in the middle of storms, allows us the opportunity to just fall into that comfort. And so I don't know what you've walked in here with. I don't know what your past looks like. I don't know if you grew up with 2 parents, 2 siblings, and 2 dogs, or if you grew up like my boys, they don't know their dads. They had some really, really dark times, some really rough nights, some really rough days, some moments where they felt not loved at all. And I think we can all relate to that. It's not just that camp experience high, but it's that continual growth in relationship, that continual conversation with God, that continual getting to know him. And when you get to know him, you recognize that his grace is the same today as it was yesterday and the day before. But my awareness of his grace, my awareness of his goodness, and my awareness of his character is what's growing. And when we do that, we're building homes that become dwelling places. So if today you're saying, like, I didn't grow up in a home like that, or I'm not providing a home like that right now, today is the day that you can change all that. Today is the day that you can say, I accept that God has a dwelling place for me. And because of that, by example of his character, I want to be a person who provides a dwelling place. I want to be a person who, whenever someone walks into my home or into my presence, that they feel like they are safe, that they feel like they are at rest. And maybe you, like my girls, born into it, didn't know any different. My girls thought everybody had their own bedroom. Turns out my boys didn't know anybody had a bed. So maybe you've always had it. It's always been there. And what happens sometimes when that's, my parents were married for 28 years before my mom passed, and I knew no different. And so there's times whenever we know no different that we forget to value what's right in front of us. We forget to value those opportunities and those moments. We forget to value those things in a way that reflects the character of God. And so I encourage you that if that's you today, that you take a moment and think, what can I adjust? Lord, forgive me. Forgive me for taking advantage of those things or forgetting to say thank you for those things. Lord, how can I be in your dwelling place in a way that reminds me of your character? Lord, that continually calls me back to you, whether it's the guy last night talked about his little devotion that he brought with him. When I travel, I do the same. When I travel, I take more things than I'm going to read. But it's important because no matter where I'm at in the world, I want to carve out specific time to understand God just a little bit more. So this morning, I would like you to just dwell on these words for a minute. Surely, not maybe, but surely, goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. When you think about that, surely, it's not a maybe casual, but definitely, no matter the circumstances of this world, no matter the childhood or the upbringing or the background, surely God has a plan for you. Surely goodness and mercy are there for you, and they will follow you all the days of your life, and you will dwell in the house of the Lord. If you would stand with me, please. I'm thankful for each and every one of you in this room, and you were all prayed for, and everyone online has been prayed for, and anyone who's listening to this months from now is prayed for. And my prayer is that my words not be heard, but the love of God be felt and recognized in a way that you've never maybe understood it before. That through the 23rd Psalm, it's no longer just the 23rd Psalm, it's the 23rd Psalm that gives us the instruction and the guidance and the promise of a good God who, even in the midst of messy storms, even in the midst of everything that we have to go through, everything, the trials that we face, the sleepless nights, the lonely nights, the maybe your a single mom, and right now you're like, sometimes it just feels really heavy. I encourage you, accept that dwelling place. Maybe you're a dad and you're like, I lose my temper with my kids. I sometimes don't spend the time with them that I should. There's restoration for you. There's goodness for you. And today's the day that you can make a decision that my home is different and mom is out there. Maybe today's the day that you decide my house is an image of the dwelling place that God has. And I want to make it that way, in a way that when any person walks in, they're comfortable. They know that this is a safe place. They know this is a place of goodness and a place of rest. Be that mama who, whenever those kids walk in your door, they feel comfortable walking to your cabinet. It's really okay. It's not rude, at least not in my house. It's not. My girls have friends, and one was over a couple days ago. She comes in, and she literally just pops herself on the couch, and what you got to eat, I think I was telling Andy, my son that's 30, he gets so comfortable when he comes home, and he's a pretty meticulous guy. He comes home, and he lays down on the couch and forever puts his socks on the floor by the couch. Now, that's a level of comfort. Because he doesn't do that there. But I just want to encourage you. Maybe you fought with your kids last night. It was Saturday night, and believe me, I've been there. I don't know what it is you're going through. Maybe your health is struggling. I don't know what it is, but God does. And I want you to know today that He has a dwelling place for you, both here and now, continually coming back to His presence, and in eternity.